Good morning again. We're back here, and when you see Wemimo Adebiyi, it looks as if the morning has started afresh. Yellow people come like a sun. You know the way sun brightens up. So yellow people used to make me feel like, oh, let him more kind of thing. Wemimo Adebiyi joins us this morning on the Bumper Breakfast. Good morning, Wemi. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Today?
I'm so happy to be here. So happy to share color with you.
You're not sharing.
You.
You're not sharing color with them. You're having spots of our color. I don't understand.
I just read skirt.
Yes. Unique.
Red nails, red skirts. Am I feeling left out? No. People should leave me alone.
You're left in the middle.
With my normal.
Really in the middle.
But I'm just wondering, Remy, all the parties you've been going for, do you wear face mask?
Do I wear face mask?
Nose mask.
Face mask, you know?
Do I mask?
Like nose?
In between, when I want to do paparazzi, I remove when I'm done.
But tell me your observation. What about the people around?
Okay, people actually, they've started enjoying themselves, not minding the situation in town. You know, most people are very, very, let me use the word careless. Yes, these days. So basically, it's so.
You know, it's quite
unfortunate.
1.5 million.
But funny enough, I was at an event on Saturday, and at the time he sent me the IV. I read there strictly by invitation. So I joked about it. I said, what do you mean strictly by, you are burying your father, you are saying strictly by invitation and all that. So he just smiled and said, COVID, you know, is one of the big boys in court. And to my surprise, in the recent past, I've not been to a party that is COVID-19 compliant.
Oh, I was at a party last Thursday.
Not crowded. It was not even done in a hall. It was done at an open field. This orthopedic hospital, the field.
Okay.
So they had the tent, just few tables and few chairs. That big field, few tables and big chairs. They packed the vehicles in such a way that, you know, there was only one entrance. You know, you can come in through that compound. I don't know how they did it. Maybe the security guys told, they were directing people to they packed, you know, like this, and they left only one entrance, and it was bumper to bumper. So if you had to go in through that entrance, you have to sanitize your hand, and then you have to mask. Gosh. And they had nose mask just in case
you didn't come with
yours. With one.
Give you.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
It's quite.
The one I attended last week, the same thing, and right from the door it will spray you and all, one entrance, one head at a time.
I've not been to a party like that in the recent time. I'm like, wow. Although I didn't stay long, because in the midst of this COVID, all I do at parties is just to mark register, presence,
show face.
But then I took note of that. That was a good one. But unfortunately, honestly, a whole lot of us, I'm saying us because I'm also inclusive. We are beginning to lay down our guards, you know, concerning the issue of COVID-19, which is not supposed to be.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a whole lot of people have not been vaccinated.
Yeah.
People, my friends will say that I have become an advocate of honestly, but my case is go back to you know, so that's my case. So I wouldn't pray it for anybody. And what is even more alarming these days is the rate of death. Unfortunately, in this part of the world, we don't do autopsy. We don't do most of it with a common man. So you hear things like, I spoke with her yesterday. She was at work. She's ill and healthy, but this morning she's no more. Honestly, something within me tells me this new variant is killing people.
Really?
Tells me because
And a new variant.
we were
Another
told
one
that
has been discovered.
another one has been discovered, and we're told that this new the Delta variant that usually most of the times does not come with symptoms. So by the time you are falling sick, you are almost gone. So it's really unfortunate because a whole lot of Tomisin, a whole lot of people are dying.
And I also discovered that with this new variant, we're not having people saying, I survived. It was the initial one that you had people say, okay, I was infected, I went home.
Yeah.
But this new variant, people are not surviving.
No, a number of people, like one of my pastors was saying, I heard him, I came across what he was admonishing the church members about COVID-19. Apparently he had COVID-19. He said, he traveled here, there, and all that, and got back home and discovered that he was down with flu. And most of the time, someone like me, when I'm stressed out, I just start running, so he just felt that it was the usual flu, but before the next day, he was feeling so uncomfortable, and no, he said, yeah, it was still the flu, a little bit of discomfort, but he just said, okay, I was going to call the doctor. He called the doctor, and the doctor said, okay, he should come around, and they decided to do a COVID-19 test, and they discovered,
He had COVID.
He had COVID and all that, but the doctor said to him, he should just go home, treat the symptoms, that he will find there's nothing that can be done for him, but he should just be at home. But that the good thing is that he doesn't have an underlying ailment, and he's been fully vaccinated.
That's good.
So it was admonishing people to please go take your vaccines. That is a living witness that, yes, vaccines will not say that you would not have COVID, but you have so much chance
To survive.
Let's talk about gender-based violence this morning. It's been said from time to time that so many people in the course of the incident sabotage justice. Sometimes it's about the victim, not voicing it out. Sometimes it may be the people around the person, keeping the story down. Or sometimes it just goes like that, and then years later, people begin to talk about it. But the point is, there is this culture of silence that has come with gender-based violence, and it has been part of our culture for so long a time. Today, we're looking specifically at how the victims sabotage justice. And Wemi, talk to us about it.
All right, it's a very, very interesting topic, because I have dealt with cases where, the case was reported, because I discovered that these days, the cases are usually reported.
Yeah.
All right, and we leave it at that. So the case I handled, it happened to be a girl whose father was, violating sexually for years.
Wow.
So being the counselor, she opened up. The father was picked up, and when she got to the police station and all,
She refused to confess
she switched.
the story.
Yes.
Wow.
And then a different thing entirely. Now, the reason, basically, I'm going to speak from the professional angle. We have poverty, we have fear, we have societal pressure, you have, don't be the one to spoil the family name, you have all manners of stigma, all of those things are there. But if I'm going to look at it professionally, I'll say that usually the victims suffer from SS, which we call Stockholm Syndrome.
Okay.
Yes, and someone may ask, what is Stockholm Syndrome? It's actually a moment where the victim develops an attachment, an emotional, a psychological attachment, pity for the perpetrator. And this happens over time, which means most people who are in a domestic violence situation, they came up with that strategy to survive. And then it now became a part of them. Where though they felt the pain, they felt the hurt, they felt the bash, but they just decided to, team up, sort of, try to understand on behalf of the perpetrator. And this happens with constant abuse, verbal abuse, usually where the perpetrator says, you made me do this. Okay, you caused this. And the perpetrator shifts the blame. And at the end of the day, the victim, all right, owns the blame. And the only way the victim could survive is to switch into a Stockholm syndrome. So when the matter escalates, the victim begins to display this syndrome, and the matter becomes a mess.
Wow.
Yeah.
I do not agree with this professional thing.
Okay.
I just do not. And I'm coming from the angle of my personal experience, because usually I say that if you have not been there, you cannot understand. When I was a young girl and I was being violated, I did not speak out, not because I felt pity. In fact, if I could, commit murder at that time, I would murder him. Do you understand? But I would go more with the normal, reason, as in poverty. As a then, I was at his mercy. My education was at stake. Today, if I spoke out as a then, today I would have dropped out of secondary school. Do you understand what I'm saying? Those were the things in my head. And in my head, I was saying to myself, I want to become somebody in life. I'm not a failure. Okay? So I was counting down, as in, WAEC is coming, WAEC is coming, WAEC is coming. At least I will finish my WAEC. And the day...
So you gave yourself that consolation.
Yes. The day I finished... So it wasn't more of pity. If, unfortunately, if it was now that we have advocates and all of people that you can run to, and even the states, you can go and they will take you up and all that, I'm telling you, I would have done it.
Now, let me sound this. When we talk about it cognitively, okay? Now you have expressed it, talking about you being in that situation. Now, that was your form of Stockholm attachment syndrome, which this could be either positive or negative. You decided to switch it in the negative. Two things that keep human beings going, either in a negative or positive situation, motivation or hope. Yeah, you had the hope, I want to be somebody. So you decided to hold on to it, and you attached a time to it. So it's still a form of Stockholm syndrome. It's an attachment for survival, but in the hopeful direction. But when you are dealing with...
so the Stockholm syndrome doesn't necessarily have to be... It doesn't have to be,
no.
PT.
No, it doesn't just have to
be.
But most times, when it comes to abuse, usually, generally, okay, the syndrome plays out, okay? And when the individual gets to a point where they feel, I can't let this person just, I don't want... They usually have reasons attached to it. And that reason could be negative or positive.
Definitely.
Basically. So it's not about, I want to disregard it altogether. And you will discover that when the victim, doesn't get help, all right, it doesn't mean that the victim is okay. Even when they eventually gain the hope, okay, for holding on to something in that situation. All right. So the major thing, that was why I said I want to look at it professionally. There is poverty. There is where do I go? Where do I start from? All of those things that surface. Okay. But what abuse does to people is it damages within. But people do not know that. Let me use the word, I'm being damaged. something is dying in me. Okay, you want to hold on for a long while. You want
longer
to
time.
achieve something. You want to, attach it to something. So when you're dealing with such an individual in that condition, people should not judge them, because you do not know how far the abuse has gone for. And usually, for someone to get to that stage, it's a gradual thing. It's a gradual thing. Helplessness sets in. Okay, hopelessness sets in. Then, the way we are created as humans, we are created to, let me use the word, to survive any situation. So you could come up with a negative strategy, and you could come up with a positive strategy
To survive that
but it hasn't
situation.
removed the source of that
Problem in the first
problem.
place.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the victim goes through all of this
Yes.
and then gets to the point of getting justice, meaning despite the fact that you have kept it away or developed a coping mechanism, or finally, like Yinkakenny's situation, gone out of the environment where you were being abused, and you finally have the opportunity to speak out, what then? Do they still resist allowing the perpetrator
To go.
to go through the system and be punished for what he did or she did to them?
Okay, so you mean the victims don't allow it happen?
Exactly. So we had conversations with people where they were saying, unfortunately, I cannot play them because they're private. Where people were saying they couldn't allow them to go because then the family members of those people will come after them. They couldn't allow the perpetrator to continue with the case because it would be written in the name of their child and all that. For a young child who was abused, the parents said because they don't want their child to ever appear in court or whatever, they refused. Now, they even told them to the point that the child doesn't have to appear in court. It's going to be a private session between the judge and the child, and
Yeah,
nobody else
to
will be
protect
there
the child,
to protect the
actually.
child. But the parents totally refused. In fact, it's so bad that the parents, or sometimes, see themselves as more of the victims than the person who actually went through the abuse.
You see, let me pick from that thought. Anyone who went through abuse, all right, is in a damaged situation. Anyone related to the person also has been damaged. And that's why we need to understand for families. It's easy to say she backed down, you backed down, you stalled the judgment, the arraignment or whatever. We are not looking at things from, as a professional. When you want to embark on such a journey, a counselor needs to be on ground to make them see things from another perspective. This is not about Afe Bebije. This is not about we want to put your name in the public. This and these are the ways we're going to go about it. But you discover that nobody educates them. Nobody counsels them. Nobody even stands by them. Because when you are going through all of these stages, whether you are appearing, you are writing your statement, you are appearing in court, most times it is what the news is about that people want to know. There should be somebody standing by the victim and the victim's family, reassuring them, telling them this is the next thing. This is how we are going to respond. This is what you are likely to feel. So you are giving them some form of emotional, you are padding them up. It is fear and lack of knowledge that makes people back down, because at the end of the day, when they threaten them, it will show up. If you continue with this case, this is what will happen to you. Because you don't know your right. Because you don't have somebody standing by you. So you feel all alone and you're like, please, I don't want to die. Let him go. I'm a gba for long. Do you get it? But when you gba for long, your emotion is not buying for you. Because something is eating, because you are going to compound that feeling you felt cheated and you were abused. You can't recover from it. So it's just best for people to allow the law while you have somebody by your side helping you to go through the process, because it's actually a very long journey to go
You
through.
see, it's just unfortunate that we have a lot of loopholes excuse me, in our society. A lot of, so many things are just not working. Honestly, well, what you're talking about is all things being equal. What you're talking about is in a society where the things are, done the right way. In the first place, when we talk about justice, how many people can actually afford it? Now, let's even talk about, we have NGOs coming in place and all that and all that. Now, how many of the NGOs or the, association or whatever would want to go the extra mile employing a counselor? I don't know if you understand.
Yeah.
You find out that one person will be a jack of all trade and a master of none.
The lawyer,
The lawyer will
complainants,
say-
everything.
Yes. So it bounces back to, unfortunately, where we find ourselves. And for today, we still have a long way to go. A long way to go, because I thought there was a day I was asked to I give a speech. I cannot remember the topic of what I was talking about that day. And I remember that I said, someone said, do you as a rape victim or as someone that has been sexually assaulted, do you get healed? And my response was that I would always respond, might not be 100%, but for me, I would say that you have a wound that gets healed, but you have the scar.
Exactly.
I was with someone yesterday and he saw my knee and he was like, I was putting on a short skirt yesterday. What happened to you here? So you remind me of this accident. I had an accident, I think it should be about 6 years ago now. 6 years ago. But the scar
It's still there.
is still there. I have a scar. I had an accident when I was a young girl. For crying out loud, I'm now in my late 40s. I still have the scar there. And I remember that there was a time in my late 20s, slightly before marriage, that sport, I fell down and I got injured. And it became a very terrible wound. And I was like,
This place has healed a long time ago.
But unfortunately, because I had to hit that place, I had something that just came up to bring up the wound. And it
All
became
over again.
so worse. And thank God I could access good medical, care. So that been terrible.
So basically,
you have
you're
that
saying
scar on my
that
leg
the
now.
scar,
The scar
when you're
remains.
abused, remains. So
Remains.
when you're abused, the scar remains. And because the scar remains, does getting justice reduce the pain and the remembrance that comes with the scar?
I think it just gives
Does
you
it give
a form of
does it give you any form
satisfaction.
of
You see,
respite?
It just gives you a form of satisfaction. Because I remember that in my case, the first time I spoke out, this happened, I think I was 16. And the first time I spoke out, it was on my 40th birthday. And the first thing that came to my mind was, I wanted to trace that man back. I felt I'm in the media, I have power, I can, now you see, I can fight, you understand, I had that, I had it eating all these years, somewhere in my subconscious mind. But I realized that day I was talking about it, I was crying deeply as if it just happened.
Just happened.
And the next thing on my mind was, that was the next thing. So I think
So the
it's
pain
a form
comes
of
back.
it gives a form of satisfaction.
You see,
I have
agree,
justice.
I agree. You see, when we're dealing with domestic violence victims, they are very, very delicate people. Okay, when you judge them, you complicate the issue.
Thank you.
When you question them unprofessionally, you complicate the issue. And what we do is we call it psychoeducation. All right? You try it because some of them feel it, but they can't define exactly what happened. So you must be able to help them put a name to it.
To the emotion they're feeling.
This was what happened, or this is what happened. Okay? And then you must be able to help them detach themselves from it and see more of the perpetrator.
And not
Because the reason they carry on with the pain for a long time is they see themselves. They blame themselves. So you must do that psychoeducation. It's not you. You know, we say knowledge is power. So you are empowering them emotionally, you are shifting it. So the moment you are able to help them shift that cognitive feeling, you know, it's easier for them to stand their ground and tell you even things they never told anybody. And that's where in psychology we now use Socratic method. I'm sorry. And this is the situation where you ask them to paint exactly what happened. And then you merge it with what you are feeling now. And you discover that somebody who was abused 10, 20 years ago cry as if it's just happening yesterday. And you know that you were not healed. So justice is possible. I mean, it's important. It rubs it in. It gives them that
Feeling of a hair.
but that professional help is very, very important. Where even when the scars are there, you'll be like, yes, I went through it. I am be empowered to also forge ahead. But what we do is we leave people at the level of justice. That's if at all they get it.
get it.
So when they don't get justice and they don't get professional help, they are empty. And that's why they have issues with marriage. They have issues with children. They have issues with people. And they cry to you that they need help, but they can't help themselves. So justice and professional help will go hand in hand to help domestic violence victims.
Let's open up the phone lines this morning. You have a question, you have a comment, you want to ask our professional this morning any question, or you want to share your story, send us a text message or WhatsApp message, or you simply send a call through to 080-6473-8133. The number 080-6473-8133. We'll begin taking calls after this quick break. Zero 080-6473-8133 is the number to call to be a part of today's conversation. If you're just joining us, we've been discussing how victims of gender-based violence sabotage justice. And we have been talking to Wemimo Adebiyi, a cognitive behavior therapist, a counselor who's been, shedding some light on it. Of course, Yinkakenny is also here. She's a survivor of gender-based violence, and of course can tell us her story. She's shared a story with us. But I have a story I'd like to share with both of you. A little child was abused by the father, and the mother insisted she mustn't tell anybody. Now, the neighbor noticed the child, a 10-year-old, behaves erratic, in an erratic manner. So the neighbor, having observed for a long period of time, befriended the girl. And after a while, heard the story from the girl. Why have you not told your mommy? I've told my mommy. My mommy said we should not tell anybody, that we should keep it a secret. Now, this is a 10-year-old child. When this 10-year-old kept going through this, the neighbor was forced to invite the domestic violence unit of Lagos to come into the issue, the situation. Unfortunately, rather than getting them, she got an NGO or something, somewhere close to the house, who came to step into the matter. And they did what they call intervention. This intervention involved the mother allowing the child to still stay in the house with the father. She has 3 girls for the man, and because she said the other children will suffer, that he promised that if she takes the child out, allows them to take the child, he will stop paying the school fees for the other children. Number two, number two, they called an intervention with the man's family members, who then came and said they would like the man to promise them he will not do it again, so that the marriage and the abuse and the abused child could continue pari passu,
Living
side by
life
side.
as if nothing happened.
Living as if nothing happened. Let's look at the life of that child. From 10, the father started abusing at 9, all the way till she was 10. She's about 13 now. Between that year and now, look into its adulthood. If such a child never seeks counsel, never gets to see a therapist, what kind of productivity do you expect from such a child in the future?
Well, I'll say number one, the mother is a culprit as far as the
She
law
should go
is,
to jail.
is concerned. Because if a parent or anybody, you got to know that abuse is going on and you chose to keep quiet, or when you got to know you didn't report it, you also are in the same category of the perpetrator.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one. Then two, you see, when I was studying in the area of cognitive behavior, we x-rayed the brain of children that were abused and children that were not abused. The shape of the brain is different. The abused brain is a normal child's brain. The
Unabused.
the unabused has a normal shape. The abused has dots, normal shape but different dots and different things, which tells me that it's usually better for abuse not to have occurred. That's why we cry out for prevention. And because it happened to a child, I bet you
They say
the
it's a child, she will heal over
management,
time.
if they've destroyed, let me use that word, the life of that child, if the child doesn't get help. Because there has been
But they
a
say
pollution.
children heal.
They say.
That's what they say.
But in reality,
Do they?
no, they don't. And that was why she came up with those behaviors. And most people who are on drugs today, who are, let me use the word, prostitutes today, most people are into crimes. If you trace back their history, they were abused.
Yes.
And there is no way a child, is abused and the child will have a normal behavior. No, it's not possible. Because there is a distortion in the brain of that child. And it will play out in the behavior and outcome of that child. So most times, parents or people don't know the hurt, the damage you are doing to a child when you try to cover up your husband, cover up that family member. And that's why if you are doing that and you are watching or listening today, you are also, in quotes, a culprit.
An accomplice.
An accomplice. And if the perpetrator gets 14 years, because that's what Lagos gives to them, then you are liable to 10 years if they ask me to judge you. Because
Honestly,
you have destroyed a destiny.
in this case that we have the mom as the accomplice here. Honestly, I would even give more sentence to the mother.
Yeah.
Because I just cannot imagine a child you gave birth to, and it's just unimaginable though. But it happens.
I
a
have
whole lot of
handled
times.
cases.
And unfortunately, what bounces back is insecurity.
Yeah, insecurity, I don't want to lose it.
Exactly. Insecurity when you don't have probably you can't stand on your own, you can't live. And when I say insecurity now, I'm not talking about, yes, a whole lot of times we're talking about financial
Security.
insecurity and all that. But most of the times it goes much more than that.
Yeah.
A whole lot of women have been demoralized in their marriages.
Yeah.
A whole lot of women do not have the confidence.
Exactly.
A whole lot of women, you know, they are some sort of afraid, fear.
Yeah.
You know, so
I also,
you find some women, they have the financial capability, but they cannot just stand on
and
their
women
feet.
like that were also victims, so they didn't get help, and they felt, you know, the best way to respond is to pad things up, because they were padded up. And the thing about abuse is abuse runs in circle. If you don't break it, the circle continues.
It continues, exactly.
All right, we've been talking about how survivors sabotage justice. Of course, this is going to be a series. We keep talking about it for a while. We will keep talking about it. It's important that we get to the point where everyone has the confidence to take advantage of the situation and, of course, of the people around the system that government has put in place to address issues of sexual violence and deal with the said issues. All right, we take this break. Let me first of all thank Wemimo. Some calls are coming in, but time is fast spent. Send a message, send your questions. Like I said, it's a series. Next week, Wednesday, we'll deal with still gender-based violence, but of course, another angle to the issue of justice. But Wemimo, thank you so much for always delivering and always coming through for us on the Bumper Breakfast. We need to take this break. When we come back, of course, we have our dearest Omalaj back in the studio.
When would you bless me? Lord, please let me know. I got a hello. One day girls go blow. Give me.
Welcome back to the Bumper Breakfast. Mariam, you were listening to that conversation from the sidelines. What do you think?
It's a deep one, in fact. Someone said something, and ever since I've actually picked from what he said. He said, you really cannot feel someone's pain. If you are not there, you're not there. So I don't think
Don't say I feel what you're feeling. I think that thing is an insult.
In fact, it's an insult. So I've got nothing to say. In fact, I'm completely shut down.
You know,
Seriously.
And I think we should end on this note before I take from Yinkakenny. Stop telling people I understand what you're feeling.
You don't.
You don't.
You don't.
It's not true.
You don't.
You are not a victim. You don't understand. You didn't lose your husband. You don't understand. You didn't lose. I don't get it. Just say, I feel for you, or it is well with you, or just pray with the person and say sorry. Simple sorry. But when you say, I understand how you feel, you must be relating from a point of knowing.
Sometimes it seems
An
like
experience.
you are mocking the person.
That's as it's just, for me, it's just inappropriate. Don't say it. Don't sympathize with people in that manner. Don't say, I understand what you're feeling. If you've not been in their shoes, you can never understand what they're feeling.
So unless you've got a realizable solution for whatever challenge a person is facing,
Just pray for them.
just
Really.
stay mute.
Stay mute and pray for them. It's the best way.
Stay mute.
Yinkakenny, how do you close?
Well, we talked about sexual violence, domestic violence today, and all sort of it. But I'll keep saying, I'll keep shouting it that let's keep speaking out. Speak out. It doesn't have to be you. It doesn't have to be your brother. It doesn't have to be your sister. But if you notice any form of domestic violence, please speak out for yourself on behalf of whoever. You are just saving a life. My name is Yinkakenny.
Keep lending a voice.
I am Tomisin Ojo. See you again Monday. It's today Friday. Tomorrow is
Today's
Thursday, and
Wednesday.
tomorrow is our community report. Don't miss it. Send your pictures. Tell us what's happening in your environment. But we have a little bit of something for you, so you'll be shocked. We'll be back. Bye-bye.